much life, so much freedom. Free spirit, wandering spirit, lost, trying to remember the laughter.
Today's guest sings about time's up, black girl magic and freedom in her empowering music. Singer-songwriter, poet and MC, Sampa the Great was born in Zambia and raised in Botswana, where she began MCing at school. She then studied in America before relocating to Australia in 2014, where she launched her music career. Hello to Sampa the Great. How are you doing? It's a pleasure to have you on the show. Now, your incredible debut album, The Return, has won numerous awards. Its mission was to show the world your identity as a truly international artist with strong roots in Africa. Now you're working on a new record. Have you got a new mission?
My mission, I think, is the same, but with growth, to always be 100% yourself, to go back to the you that you were before anyone's opinions were involved, and to push where you're from and the people who make music from where you're from. So it's grown, but it is the same mission.
Now, since you were last on the show in 2019, a lot has happened in the world and for you. You won an ARIA Award for The Return and became the first woman to win the Australian Music Prize twice. Now, Sampa, in April you performed at Coachella in California. You're playing at Glastonbury this weekend, and then you're touring the festival circuit in France and in the US. So what's it like playing in front of such massive crowds?
It's beautiful to be able to connect with people again. Obviously, the last 3 years has been really hectic. As artists, we haven't been able to tour. We haven't been able to connect with people who love our music. And to see people singing the music back, rapping the music back, and still showing the music love is amazing.
You recently released a new track. It's called Lane. It features American rapper Denzel Curry. In the lyrics, you talk about the new normal. I know you spent the pandemic in Zambia with your family. How did that time influence your music?
It's funny, I've just never been Sampa the Great in my own home country. My career took off in Australia and I've been based there. And from time to time, I would come back home, but I've just never been an artist in my home country before. So I got to work with artists from home. I got to create a whole project together, which is coming out soon. And it just felt whole. It just felt like, the Sampa Tembo at home and the Sampa the Great in Australia had merged. So it's a completion and it's a total full circle for me.
Okay, well, let's take a listen. This is Lane.
In your face, there's some peace and power underestimate. Pussy make you know your place, sitting on your nigga's face. Oh, look at that now. Oh, look at that now. Oh, look at that now. You say stay in your lane. You thinking I had one, thinking you're Geppetto. Pulling strings, you ain't get the memo. You know that I'm walking through the meadow. I ain't give a shit, gon' suck pussy. You keep your click and I keep my stay. I ain't underrated, I'm just on the head.
Now, Sampa, Lane is about standing your ground and defying being typecast. Is that something you've experienced?
Definitely. I mean, I'm a woman in hip hop. There's always one way people expect you to express yourself or showcase your art and talent. And I've just grown as an artist to be able to express myself in multiple ways. And Lane was a bold way of me saying that I can express myself in different avenues, both visually and through my music. And I won't be put into a box.
And empowerment for Black women throughout the world and unity of people of colour is a strong theme in your music. What should the global community know about the experiences of African women in the modern world?
I mean, for one,
In the
it's
end,
really
we tried
hard
to
to
piece it
just
all together.
do music as artists. You know, there's always layers to our artistry that we have to think about that our other artists don't have to think about. Other artists don't have to think about what will offend people because we're defending our blackness, what will offend people because we're bringing up issues that we face. And I think people should know that there's always an extra layer as a black artist that you have to think about, which actually interferes with artistry, because artistry is about free expression.
Well, you tell your own story through your songs about displacement, identity politics, and what it means to be a modern African woman in music. Let's take a listen to Time's Up.
Time's up, Black Republic. Want all my work published. How many times I inspired your rhymes, then you be dubbed it. We the inspiration, we the motivation. Take ideas, then you be shutting.
In variation, the hourglass, I'm a crack at the fatter, the cream, the black of the talent. I'm taking matters in hand.
I'd rather challenge the industry, got no dignity. Put in my feminism, me searching for their diversity.
All I see is a bunch of mechanical breakdown. Do it till the planet to break down. On a mission to free ourselves, verbally medicated, put on the shelf with no for sale. Neither asking for help, and I ain't asking for help.
Not asking for help, we not for sale. Not asking for help, not out to get your own rage. We just searching for some. Go fuck yourself, fuck the game, fuck the blame, fuck the audience, fuck the dance, fuck the list, fuck the RBRs.
Your videos are really fabulous. Now, Sampa, you were born in Zambia. You grew up in Botswana. You studied in the United States as a teenager, and then you moved to Australia when you were 20. Tell us, how did the Black Lives Matter protests impact you as an African artist living in Melbourne?
I mean, Black artists in Australia in general, at that time and the time that the return came out, were facing, we were all being underappreciated, not put into the spotlight, and a lot of the mainstream music and music videos didn't look like us. So when Black Lives Matter came about, it wasn't something that we hadn't talked about before. It was just brought to the global, the global sphere. A lot of us already knew these issues before. So the general diaspora banded together and spoke about these issues, but these are not issues that are new to us. These are issues that we've already faced in our industry, and it was about banding together and making sure that our voices are even more heard.
And how did your experience living in the United States, where this movement began as a teenager, shape your identity?
I mean, it was a real culture shock for me. The States was the first place I went outside of my home, outside of my bubble in Africa. And I really did learn a lot about how the world views me as an African. And my main mission when I left was to make sure that I'm 100% confident in who I am and where I'm from, because I saw a lot of the social inequalities that were happening there. And it was a real huge culture shock, because a lot of what we fed, on the continent is America. So there was a huge expectation for my journey there to be something that was amazing, and that was just not my reality. It was a huge lesson to learn, but it did birth the Sampa the Great that you see now.
And you use your mother tongue, Bemba, in your music. Explain why.
Well, language is passed down from generation to generation. It's the way we talk to our parents, it's the way we talk to our grandparents, it's the way we pass down stories in our history. And a lot of history from home has either been whitewashed or just retold in a way that is not true. And so it's really important for me through my music to be able to tell our stories through our own language, and pass that down to the next generation.
And Sampa is your real name. Tell us how you became Sampa the Great.
Well, the Great was, this young teen who was really, who had a huge dream to be an artist, but was really scared because she hadn't seen anyone in her family do it, or didn't think that it would be a reality. The Great is something to strive to be, which is the greatest version of myself. And so I put the Great beside my name to strive to be the greatest version of Sampa.
Okay, well, Sampa, we think you're Sampa the Great. And we always end our show with, I guess, cultural pick of the moment. Tell us what you've chosen for us.
I've chosen Fatoumata Diawara, and her song is Negu Negu. I recently fell in love with her through her song with Lauryn Hill, where they did the soundtrack for the movie The Harder They Fall. it was so beautiful to see both of these amazing women, one from Mali, one from the continent, and one who has been a huge inspiration to me. So, Fatoumata.
Okay, well, we're going to play out with Negu Negu from Fatoumata Diawara. Sampa the Great, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Your new video is called Lane. You're going to be playing at Glastonbury Festival this weekend, and you have plenty of other dates on your website. Thank you to everyone for joining us. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
Lamba sinima huele, tolondia lamba terini huele, tolondia lamba kanu huele. Nege 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 fo kanisondia kanege nege fo kanisondia.
Falcone logicamente è stato ucciso, è stata accelerata questa sua morte perché stava facendo la dislocazione, un problema di tutti i mafiosi.
In 1992, a few weeks apart, 2 anti-mafia judges were murdered in Sicily, attacks that deeply affected the island's inhabitants.
Quello che tu avevi immaginato quella sera come un bel ritratto di 2 personaggi diventa quasi non più una fotografia, ma diventa un segno, un simbolo.
Where the law of silence once reigned, people are gradually finding the courage to speak out.
Perché dovete lottare, dovete essere curiosi e dovete farvi tante domande e non dovete dare più il consenso alla mafia.
30 years on, the fight against the mafia continues. Watch Cosa Nostra Revisited on France 24 and France24.com.